Welcome to the Sober Strength podcast. I'm your host, Jesse Carrajat. This is episode 42. It is September 17th, 2024, the time I'm recording this intro. This week, I'm excited for this episode. Unusual here at the show. I was recently the guest on a show called Journey to the Sunny Side, hosted by Mike Hardenbrook. Sunny Side, if you don't know, is a moderation app. So if you're looking for accountability, community, etc., if you think you benefit from, say, tracking your drinks, and it's just a slew of other resources to help with, drinking, and specifically, Sunny Side is a great app. I've actually gotten to know the founders and their heart behind their mission. It's just a great app, not affiliated with the Sober Strength podcast. But anyway, I was on their show, and you can find our episode now. It's out there. But the host, Mike, asked me a question, which I was glad that he asked me, which is, what does sober strength mean? And I'll just say here, without giving away this episode, it doesn't mean what you probably think it does. The word sober, when most people hear it today, we apply meaning to that word based on really how that word has been defined in the last less than 100 years. But the word sober just has a deep historical meaning that's not what it is today. Specifically, historically, sober never meant or wasn't meant to mean just alcohol. And it wasn't meant specifically to mean abstinence. Sober-minded is actually a term that was more heavily used historically. And this dates back to the Bible and even before then, across different languages, Latin, Greek, French, what have you. So the word sober strength doesn't mean what you think it means. And this show is probably not about what most people would think it's about if they just read the name of the show, which is great. And that's the design. So Mike asked me that question, and then we actually had a great conversation about how to achieve moderation, healthy livings, sober-mindedness, or should I say clear-mindedness. And we went high level, we went practical steps, and again, just a really rich conversation. And I enjoyed it so much, and I thought it was a good talk. And I think because this show, in its, at this point, about 10, 11 months of existence, has kind of changed, and it's evolving, and I think for the better. And I thought it'd be great because we've had so many new listeners join the show, and I'm so grateful for that. I thought it'd be great to kind of pull up and talk about what this show means, if anything, to give people clarity and understanding, and hopefully motivation to continue listening, and just kind of define what we're all about. So I really hope you enjoy the episode as much as I enjoyed the conversation with Mike. And without further ado, here's episode 42 on the Sober Strength podcast. Enjoy.
Today I have Jesse Carrajat with us. Jesse, thanks for coming on.
It's a pleasure to be here. Thanks for having me.
I'm excited to get going here. And as usual, I always do some research beforehand. I listened to one of your podcasts, and we share so many commonalities, and I actually had to write them down. So, of course, we have our history with alcohol, and that could be an episode in itself. But we have 3 kids. Fatherhood's really important to us. We're both entrepreneurs. We're both lifelong fitness guys. And you're a veteran, you help veterans, and I grew up in a veteran home, so I hold a special place in my heart there. And then I just found out that you live in Colorado, and I just moved here. So another welcome. Thanks for coming on.
Yeah, it's great to be here. It makes you want to keep going. What's your favorite food for breakfast? Do you like the Dallas Cowboys by any chance? That's my favorite team, but it seems like there's a lot of similarities, bro. So looking forward to
Well,
it.
I'm a Chiefs fan, so we don't see eye to eye there. So I guess that's where it ends.
And I would only have an issue with the Chiefs fan if I see in the Super Bowl, which is a good problem to have. So it's all good.
Sounds good. All right. You talk about something called sober strength, and I want to know what sober means to you and how that applies to somebody that wants to cut back on alcohol.
I'm glad you asked that. I mean, literally the name of my show is Sober Strength. And So what does sober mean? If you trace the definition of sober back as far as you can, or at least as far as Google will allow you to, the word emerged in the 1300s. And alcohol, and I actually have a great episode that we went into on our show with Professor Edward Slingerland about the history of alcohol culturally. How did it evolve into what it is today? Alcohol wasn't even nearly the same in terms of accessibility in the 1300s, or how strong the drink was, and even culturally how it was consumed. People just didn't have access to it. And when you did, it was like a 2.5% like mead or equivalent of like a wheat beer, right? So the word sober today, I believe, and I think there's a lot of people out there that believe this, it's directly connected to this very specific framework that is very ubiquitous, it is put out by Alcoholics Anonymous, right? Sober means very specifically alcohol, and very specifically completely abstinent, right? But that's what it means today. But I think the word sober is broader, and it's just bigger in that, and it can be more impactful for that, because I think alcohol is just one substance that we can consume or ingest that can lead to unhealthy lives and shorter lives. And I think there's other substances, and even digital consumption can hurt us. So I think for starters, sober needs to mean more than that. It means take a look at your life, and do you have unhealthy relationships with anything that you're choosing to ingest with your eyes or your mouth, right? So that's the first thing. Like, how can sober mean more than just alcohol? Alcohol is the low-hanging fruit in that it's just so culturally ubiquitous, and the disastrous impact for chronic alcohol abusers is so much more dramatic when people are like really in the throes of alcohol misuse and addiction. And then the second thing in terms of sober goes, how do we unlock the abstinence piece so that people think like you're sober, you don't drink at all? Because the actual definitions, as far back as you can trace for sober, is simply more in the lines of moderation. I mean, literally there's a definition that is not intoxicated, but why do we have to attach alcohol to intoxication? It could mean anything. So of moderate in nature, temperate in nature, modest in nature. So I think being sober is just a healthy cue for anyone seeking to be free of chains of anything that we can be consuming that's making us less healthy and less present, because what matters most in life, it's our relationships, it's love from person to person, it's building good communities, and it's our legacies, right? So big preach for you there. But for me, sober means healthy, moderate, middle door relationships with everything. But my story is alcohol. That was the substance, like so many other people, that was dragging me down and that was disabling me from living a life where I felt proud of who I was and I felt present. I felt like I can give to other people and just felt content, right? So it's like, how do we redefine sober to mean more than just alcohol? And also, how do we give people permission to consume alcohol in a healthy way, but also teach them when it's no longer healthy and give them the tools to improve that relationship? And if that means no alcohol, short-term or long-term, great. But I think there is a pathway forward where people can turn alcohol into any other thing where it doesn't have its teeth in you every single day. There's no labels that are permanent, so on and so forth. So sober to me means just living a life of moderation in every asset of your life.
Man, you're speaking my language basically, because I had another guest on, Nir Eyal, who wrote a book called Hooked, and he made a similar comment around sober doesn't necessarily mean abstinence. And my wife and I were talking about this the other day, and I just didn't have a great definition to be able to give to her. But I really love what you're saying on this, and that you've gone deeper into thinking about it. So how do you think we can be more productive on conversations around substance use, especially to reduce the stigma and provide more support?
Yeah. So I think as many people as possible, especially in the public space and public arena, that can come forward and just admit that they struggle with some form of substance use. I think just reducing stigma, if you have more and more people saying that you suffer from something, then more and more people will also say that. And then eventually you can just remove the stigma. And what is the stigma? It's weakness. It's, I can't do life without alcohol, therefore I'm weak. All of that is just negative talk. So I think more people being honest, frankly, 1 in 10 people in America suffers from alcohol use disorder. Go to Costco, wait in lines, look around, and look how many people are right there in the same boat, right? So I think just more people, and then speaking about it accurately. We have science for a reason, and science changes. You mentioned Dr. Huberman. There's many out there like him that are helping to reshape and redefine what we know about science. But I think talking about addiction the right way, using the right language, believing in and having faith in our medical community that when they come out with something like alcohol use disorder, that it is real, it is true, it is a scale. So I think those two things, just more ubiquity and people talking about it and speaking about it the right way, will just lower barriers for people, the people that really need the help, to just raise their hand and say, yep, I'm ready. I'm ready to take a look at this thing.
Yeah, I think that's so important these days. And luckily that stigma is starting to drop and rapidly, because people are realizing that they're not all that different than other people out there. That this is a very common thing. When I went to go write my book, I hesitated. How's this going to look? Is it going to make me look weak, even though it no longer was an issue? People have their judgments and you have to get past that. But then ultimately, I realized that the benefit outweighed my worries, which really weren't founded. I guess I can't control what people think, but I think that weakness and shame and thinking that you're different than anybody really is something we need to remove.
Yeah. And I think people need to be vulnerable in their thinking. I don't know if you have this experience, but I have experience knowing people who for decades had no issue with substance use, in this case, alcohol. And then as they enter into like empty nester season, maybe, or they get into their 60s and 70s and develop a chronic abuse of alcohol. And so for that person to sit there in their 30s and 40s and have this idea that this doesn't impact me, I think we need to be aware that life changes, circumstances changes, traumatic events happen. Like there's many reasons why people can pick up something, a bad habit that's destructive later in life. So I think we all need to be aware that literally anybody is susceptible to a mental health issue first, and then using substance of some kind to heal and cope with that mental health issue.
Yeah, I think you hit it on the head there with there's normal and then there's problem, but anyone that's normal could move into problem. And I think we saw that with the pandemic and where people just who maybe never really would drink on a Tuesday afternoon, all of a sudden are.
Yeah, exactly. We've seen that as a society, certainly in America. So right on.
Hi, I'm Jesse Carrajat, founder of Altum Fitness, where our mission is to help you break free from unhealthy habits and mindsets to find true physical and emotional fitness. The Altum Fitness app is a world-class fitness companion offering expertly designed workout programs personalized to any goal and any experience level. By joining this community, you'll gain access to top-notch expert training programs, nutritional guidance, habit change programs, and so much more, all tailored to help you achieve your unique goals. By joining Altum Fitness, you'll also gain access to our exclusive companion community, the Altum Tribe. In the Tribe, you'll find access to expert coaches, habit change programs, live challenges, events, and so much more. It's a space to connect, learn, grow, and be motivated as you navigate your fitness journey. For one low monthly subscription, you'll be granted full access to our fitness app, community, exclusive challenges and content, and so much more. So join Altum Fitness today and become part of our amazing community. Download now and let's live deep.
You're the founder of Altum Fitness, and we're going to get into that in a little bit here, but you emphasize the connection between physical fitness and emotional health. So how do those things work together?
Yeah, they completely work together. You have to look at the whole person. So physical fitness or lack thereof, perhaps first and foremost and foundationally, could be a pink or red flag that somebody is suffering from emotional or mental health, right? So your commitment to your physical fitness is often an indicator of your overall health, your deeper health, right? So with that said, it's like, how are they related? There are powerful effects of things like cardiovascular exercise on your brain chemistry. There are powerful mental health effects on having a good body composition and not being obese, or should I say being lean and being muscular, like feeling good about yourself has a ripple effect in every other area of your life. And there are levers that everybody can pull every single day that are powerful tools if you're trying to improve your mental health. Now, they're not the end all to be all, right? I think we all know somebody who looks like a 67 Mustang and drives like a 90 Civic. Like we know people like that, right? No knock on Honda. I know they last for decades, but bad metaphor. But the point is, like, looking good does not mean you're feeling good. However, if you're focusing on the right nutrition, the right fitness, and just being in a regimen and having discipline and checking that box and doing something hard every day and creating that win for yourself, cumulatively over time, builds confidence, builds purpose, builds meaning. And if you focus on your physical fitness, in addition to other huge levers you can pull, like potentially therapy, potentially getting into a community, emphasizing relationships, like things we all know help you be more healthy emotionally. Fitness is a powerful tool, but it is not the only tool.
It's not a thing about vanity or how it looks. It's just how it makes you feel. It's going incrementally into something that you're committed and seeing long-term results, which directly relates to so many other habits in your life, because you're not going to get one workout in and all of a sudden be fit. And the same as if you're trying to change things around alcohol or other areas in your life, it's not going to happen overnight.
Yeah, agreed. And for me and my wife, for the longest time, never understood that. But like when life has been challenging, like logistically, right, and having 3 kids and traveling and stuff like that, like your disciplines fall off. Like things can just start to fall off around you. And for me, fitness has always been like the last man standing. And my wife would say, you slept for 4.5 hours last night. Why are you going to wake up and now work out? And I said, Meg, you don't understand. If this goes, that's all I got. Like, this is the last things that can go. It's like being in a house fire and it's like the last hose that I have. And you're telling me to just drop the hose and just be consumed. So the point there is it can also provide you again with that sense of agency. If everything around you feels out of control, but you can just control waking up and going to the gym and doing your 45-minute planned workout or whatever it is, that can give you that semblance of agency that is enough to help you push forward.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. When we're traveling, which we're a nomad family a lot of the time, finally settling here in Colorado, but not always having a gym accessible makes it hard. And it doesn't have to be these long workouts. In fact, I'm like a 30-minute in and out kind of guy. Like it's not 90 minutes or some of these crazy workouts, but you got to have that routine for me. I can't just back off from that. And so let's get into Ultimate Fitness because I want to hear about this. How did this come about and where are you today?
Yeah. So how it came about before we had our first child, I had already just wanted to start a gym, a brick and mortar gym called Ultimate Fitness. Ultim means deep. You can see it right here. There you go. Deep somewhere over there. But Ultim is Latin for deep. And the vision of the gym that I wanted to start, again, brick and mortar, was I wanted to have just a badass gym with a rock climbing wall, high intensity training, typical like hypertrophy bodybuilding section, massages, everything. I wanted to be a full gym, but also, and most importantly, I wanted to have connections with local therapists in the community, because it's always been my intention and my experience from my own experience, again, that I can look strong, feel strong, but you got to address the inner self and the inner soul. So the whole idea was, how do you go deep in fitness and not stay surface level, surface being the body, deep being the emotional and mental health. And I wanted to call it Ultimate Fitness. So the name was there. We had our first kid. We didn't think it was what we were planning for our first child. We didn't think it was the right timing to start a business while also having our first child. So we moved on and my career progressed and went on. And I just already shared how that ended. It didn't end well. I burned out and I made an abrupt decision to pull up and basically disrupt my career in a huge way. I blew up my career. It's one thing for someone to just quietly say, hey, I'm going to take a sabbatical and I'll see you in a year. No, I came out and say, I'm done. And also I'm suffering from mental health. I have been. This isn't the path for me. I've been using alcohol chronically and I'm done. So I knew when I ended my career, I very intentionally had to, because of how toxic my ambition can get, I had to blow it up, which is what I did. So I blew up my career. But what I knew and what I wanted to do was take some time away, literally do nothing in terms of productivity around a career. And then when I came back and felt healthy and centered, I wanted to start a company. But this time, brick and mortar wasn't what I wanted to do, because what I wanted to do was reach as many people as possible who are waiting in the wings and not quite ready to step into a community or step into a brand or step into a show that helps them assess whether they're having an issue, particularly with alcohol, and then get better. So I thought, to reach more people, it would be more of an online presence, right? So from there, Ultimate Fitness, from the start, it was always two things that I wanted to do. One was create a podcast, which I've done. And I'm incredibly, unexpectedly, pleasantly surprised and humbled to say that as of yesterday, I haven't checked today, but I was 32nd in the country in the health and fitness space in terms of podcasts when it comes to downloads and listens. And that's just a sign that we're talking about things that matter to people and they're engaged and hopefully telling other people. So that's been incredible. The other part of it is the Ultim Fitness app, which is out there right now. But essentially back to your question, like how can fitness be used in conjunction with other tools to get healthier and live longer lives? Because fitness is a big component of it, because I'm dual certified in fitness, because it matters to me and it matters to a lot of people. I thought that I can just provide an option for people by having a bunch of fitness programs and tools and countdown timers and videos and resources that if somebody doesn't, quote, just want to heal up and fix their relationship with alcohol, and they also want to look at the whole picture and just get more fit, whatever that means to them. That could be to run a 5K, to get stronger, to look leaner, whatever. I wanted to be able to offer that tool for them as well, because I happen to think I know how to help them with that. So you have an app and then you have a podcast, and that's Ultim Fitness. And I hope anybody chooses to use either of those tools.
Hey, everybody, it's your host, Jesse Carrajat. Quick interruption of this podcast. Look, there's a multitude of ways that we all can and should look to improve our drinking habits, right? And we talk about them all the time on this show. Things like getting in a group, being honest with people, focusing on sleep and nutrition and exercise. I can go on and on. But what most people don't know, and frankly, I didn't know, is that there is an FDA-approved medication that you can start taking. It's easily accessible and private and affordable, and you can start taking it today and start experiencing powerful benefits within days. And again, I've done it. I'm blown away by it. And I want to get the word out so that as many people as possible know that is an option that they can and should use. So there's a company called OR Health. That's OAR Health. You can text STRENGTH, that's STRENGTH, to 710710. Again, that's STRENGTH to 710710. You'll get a secure link. You can fill out an assessment. And if the medication is right for you, a licensed medical professional will prescribe it for you and privately, discreetly have it shipped to your home. You'll be one of over 35,000 people that have decided to take back control of their drinking through OR Health. And 76% of OR Health members report drinking less within just 2 weeks. So if you've been struggling, know that there is an incredibly powerful option out there for you. So again, STRENGTH to 710710 to see if it's a fit. And now back to the show.
That transition, what I'm hearing is basically you decided to take something that was even keel and providing and doing really well successfully and financially, but you wanted to transition into something that was mission.
Because 100%. The company I worked for was the private equity space. And let's just say that their goals are not always what's best for the people they're meant to serve. And there was a huge cognitive dissonance every day where if I'm going to be working my butt off and applying myself at this level of intensity, how much better of a life looking back would it be to say that I helped people overcome something like alcohol, as opposed to deepening the pockets of the richest people in the country? And I'll stop there.
I mean, I couldn't identify more because, I come from a marketing technology background. I did the whole VC venture capital raises, built companies in the B2B space. Wow. And on the side, I wrote my first book. And as I'm doing that, I'm like, this brings me real fulfillment. And I started questioning, does really making businesses, having them use our technology to make more money, is that really fulfilling for me? And I got all my fulfillment from doing the mission-driven things. And that's why I ended up linking up with Sunnyside. That's why I'm here on a microphone. That's why I help with our growth initiatives. That's why I do our master classes. And so I couldn't relate anymore to what you just said. I commend you for just going for it.
Yeah, back at you. I didn't know that was your background. And I think that when people have lived on that side of the fence, they're particularly driven and motivated on our side of the fence now, which is altruism and helping people. So I commend you as well for making that jump.
Yeah, take some of our entrepreneur creativity and see what we can do with it.
Exactly.
Right?
And that's what our country needs, more mission-driven entrepreneurs.
100%. So I've heard you talk about control release cycle.
Ooh.
Can you explain what that is?
Yeah. If you've noticed in this conversation, I try to come up with metaphors to help me communicate. And one of the things that occurred to me when I was more in the depths of my challenges was, if you picture a Venn diagram, the age-old 2 circles with interlap in the middle. Thanks for doing that. My life was spent on both extreme sides and never in the middle. And on one side, we can call that Venn diagram control. And on the other side, it's release. And in the middle is presence. Okay. And what I mean by that is control on the right side of the Venn diagram for anyone listening, right? It's what are the things that I do every day to try to desperately have agency in my life and control the outcome of my life. And that could be in the micro daily stuff. Do I want to have a good day today? Do I want to go to the gym? Do I want to drink alcohol today? But also in the macro, like really important stuff, like how much do I want in my savings account? Where would I like my career to end? Will I buy a vacation home? On and on, right? But like, if you're obsessing on those things, or I should say, orienting your life towards those things and physically what you do, you're seeking to control what is inevitably an uncontrollable outcome. Now you can have agency and impact your life, but there are things that can happen today that can just throw all that away, right? But there's this control area, which is where I was investing 100% of my focus. Baseline underneath it. Why? Anxiety. My life will not end well. I've seen the men in my lives not end well. That will be me. How do I desperately work my tail off every single day to avoid what will be inevitably a poor ending, right? That's going real deep on you, but that's control. That's where I spent my time.
Yeah.
The other side is release, and release are what are the things that I'm doing to escape this mind that God gave me, right or wrong, good or bad, right? And release are some of the terms I use, which are very important, I think, for people to understand, like disassociation. How do I disconnect? Not physically, but how do I disconnect from my mind to turn it off because it's so burned out and so tore down from obsessing over control in my environment? So what I found was I was living this life chronically where I spent all of my energy trying to control things. And we equate that to like pride sometimes in 2024. Like, I'm a hard worker. I got up at 5. I did my thing. I would do that, and to the point of literally like mental, emotional burnout every day, and then try to turn it off and have some semblance of joy or positivity, which alcohol can do in those first couple drinks. We both know that. But I would release, and I would release by drinking, consuming sports, consuming music videos, stand-up comedy. All those things are like entertainment, but it's escape at the same time. And I was never in the middle. And the middle is what is the most important. It's the sweet stuff in life. It's like what we're all here for. That presence is just like smelling the air around you, looking into your eyes of your spouse and literally seeing their eyes and realizing that you can see them, and feeling love and giving love and just being present, right? Being unobstructed by any ambitions or fears. Like, how do you just be where you are? I was never there. I couldn't do it. I couldn't find presence. So for me, it was like this, in summation, it's like all of this, quitting my job, starting this, helping other people. I needed to heal, and I needed to figure out how I can just live a life where like I am where my feet are and I'm present. And I'm still on that journey. I'm getting better every day, Lord willing, but it's hard, especially if you allowed yourself to get to a place where I was, which was just completely driven by unhealthy motives, I would say.
Oh, I love all of that, of course. So I'm thinking in terms of, you have all this wisdom, you have this program, but let's just say, for example, there's a world where you haven't yet created it. However, you still retain all the experience. You still have all the knowledge and the background that you've done. And I say, I'm having a tough time cutting back. I'm drinking wine every night in the evening. I've tried this and it's not working. What are some things that you would tell me if that was the problem I came up with?
Yeah. So blocking and tackling in terms of like habit change, environmental change, aside for 1 second, I think, speaking of my own experience, I doubt that most people define their why. And that's just a phrase that people understand, but to go a little bit deeper, ultim, right? Deeper. I heard once in the course of doing the show, one of my guests said, your why should make you cry, right? Your why should make you cry. So I think for someone to say, I want to drink less, it's not enough. Why? And then linger there. Well, I just know that my body's not healthy. Why does that matter to you? What do you mean healthy? What is healthy? Well, healthy means just not putting bad things in my body. And okay, why? Because I want to live longer. Why? Because I have 2 little children. Good. Why do you want to live longer for them? And I'm going through this exercise right now, and I get emotional because that's my story, right? But I think to just say, I want to drink less, it's not enough. So I think you have to spend a lot of time on your why and define it. And if you're willing, write it down. because it can be something that you come back to. Put it in a very conspicuous place so that it's a reminder for you. So I think getting really surgical on the why and what your motivations are to motivate you, but also to revisit your motivations. And then just to choose one habit, because it's what you and I are about in terms of our mission. It's like, okay, let's choose alcohol. You got to follow tried and true blocking and tackling on that. If you're able, right? If you don't live with 5 different people in a frat house, which is rare, get the alcohol out of your house, because science will tell you that if it's physically there, you'll make an excuse to go find it when you need it. So remove the alcohol from your house. Something else, accountability is not just powerful because it is. It's neurochemistry. When you know that someone else is going to ask you if you're going to do something because you shared out you have a goal, not wanting to fail for somebody else is more powerful than not wanting to fail for yourself, like it or not. So you need to tell someone. Now that could be your brother, that could be your spouse if you're willing, but tell someone interpersonally. I'm not talking about going on in anonymity on a website and saying, I'm here and I shall go drinking. Not enough. Tell a human being and tell them to their, if you can, to their face, if not to their ears on a phone, but share your struggles with somebody, because it's therapeutic in itself to let go of that burden. But also, especially if you ask them, hey, I don't want to drink for 30 days. And I want you to text me every Saturday to ask me how I'm doing. That might be like, you might dread doing something like that. But guess what? It's a powerful motivator, because you don't want to get that text on Saturday and write back, oh yeah, I know I was all fired up on Monday, but Wednesday was a rough day, so I gave in. And it's okay if that happens, but just telling someone, is my point, is powerful, right? So get motivated by telling somebody. A third thing I would say that everybody should consider, and in this one isn't as necessary, at least in the first week, is also jump into a community. And that's a funny one. I don't say like it needs to be like, hey, let's all gather at this time every week and talk about alcohol. You can start a community. And what that looks like is you can text, and literally I've done this. You can text 3 friends. And I said, hey guys, every Saturday, I'm going to run 5 miles at 6 a.m. And also I'm doing that because Friday nights are a triggering night for me, and I usually drink alcohol, right? And this is just an example. I'm getting into specificity, but you could say being there on Saturday with you guys is going to hold me accountable to my goals. You don't have to RSVP. This is where my run starts. It's 5 miles. If you're there Saturday, great. If not, all good, man. But like, you can create a community that's not necessarily totally structured towards your goal, but then invite that topic into it with some close friends, and they can hold you accountable. That would be motivating for sure. And then just to pick another one, and none of these are fitness related, because we talked a little bit about how like fitness can support these things, but I think almost anyone would benefit at least once in their life kind of pulling up from life and connecting with a therapist. And that could be a licensed clinical social worker. It could be a psychologist, which of course is someone with a doctorate in that area. It could be anyone, as long as they have credentials. But like, sit down and just allow someone, like a third party that's not in your like personal relationship circle, to sit there and get to know you and just maybe pull out some blind spots. Because I promise anyone listening, you do have blind spots. And some of them could be contributing underlying to why it is that you're searching for a better relationship with alcohol or whatever substance. So I think those 4 are a damn good foundational start. And we can go on and on from there, but get the stuff out of your house, tell some people, allow people to hold you accountable, and address any underlying issues that could have got you where you are in the first place.
Every single one of those I can attest to, and those are powerful, especially starting with your first point as to your why. And I also thought that one of the easiest ways was the community side around picking your own group. I've said it before on the podcast that I started just committing to going mountain biking early in the morning at 5 and 6 a.m. with a group. And I just wasn't allowed to do the things that I wanted to do as far as drinking goes when I committed to those things.
Yeah. Yeah. Well said, man. My father, like I said, he wasn't very educated, but I think he was smart. And to this day, he still had these little sayings that I'm like, dang it, like, how did you know that? And one of them, and I'll say it in his North Jersey accent, but one of them was, at the end of the day, you all who your friends are. You all who your friends are. So choose wisely. And man, like, it couldn't be more true, right? Like, surround yourself with positive people seeking positive things, and that's always going to be health, and it'll elevate you, and hopefully you can elevate them as well.
Yeah, I love that. So I think this is a good place to end it, because you gave everyone here listening 4 actionable pieces of advice that make a huge impact on moving forward. But before we go, why don't you talk a little bit about any projects, anything that you're working on currently that has you excited?
Hey, the podcast, the Sober Strength podcast it's the thing I'm most excited about. It's growing exponentially. We're starting to have some really great people reach out to come on the show and share their story. So just continuing to get better and better. You know, Stephen Covey, 7 Effective Habits, right? He says, sharpen the saw. You should always be sharpening the saw. So always trying to get better. And by better, I just mean being a better interviewer, asking good questions, drawing out good stories that motivate and inspire people. So that show's great. I'm actually this week for the first time, because the weekend is such a triggering time for people, I'm going to get into like a Friday motivation where I just, audio only, just come on and just share maybe some stoicism or some type of quote and just unpack and just motivate people and send them into the weekend to have a healthy weekend and to crush their goals. So looking forward to evolving the podcast in that way. And then on the app side of things, it's an added benefit if people want to go down that road to use our programming to get more fit, but just excited to continue to add programs in there and listen to the users and just cater to those people who are trying to get more physically fit in addition to their mental and emotional fitness. So all that to say, man, I'm just so grateful that we're reaching people and making a difference in their lives, because that's quite literally why, everything why I'm doing what I'm doing. So it's been great.
I'm excited for you. So thank you so much for coming on here, sharing your wisdom, sharing openly your story. And it's really exciting to hear what you got next. So thanks a lot, Jesse.
It was great to be here. And thank you for having me. It was an honor.
All right, everybody, that's the show, folks. Thank you so much for tuning in to the Sober Strength podcast and spending some time with us today. We've got a favor to ask. If you enjoyed the show, would you please consider subscribing to the show and even leaving a rating and review? That simple act drastically helps us reach more people in our mission to help them live better, longer, healthier lives. You can also follow us if you'd like on Instagram and YouTube for regular tips and motivation around mental health, addiction, and so much more. Know that your support fuels our brand and is greatly appreciated. So until next time, stay strong and live deep.